G'day, we are with Mark today from the TOOLSHED in Noojee, and he has kindly agreed to talk to us about some of the concerns that he has about the Great Forest National Park, especially if it goes ahead and what the impact that's going to be, not just on his business, but generally the community around Noojee. So Mark, can you start by telling us, what do you see as the greatest concern you have about this proposal?
At the moment, where Noojee is a town that's absolutely labouring. We're really battling all the businesses in town. We've lost the logging, we've lost the mill, we've lost Vic Forest, Decker have had cuts. It's a town with a lot of money, and the businesses are really, really battling. So the Toolshed, I can only talk for the Toolshed, but campers, forestry, trail bikes, four-wheel drivers, they're at least 30-35% of our business.
Yeah.
And we might not be viable if you take that 35% away. We're looking at, we employ 20 people. We're a big employer in the town, and for us to shut our doors would be devastating for the town and the area.
Yeah.
So,
and how many people live in Noojee?
there's about 80.
All right, so you're employing about 20 people out of 80. That's a significant portion, isn't it?
They're all from around the area. They're all close by. So yeah, it's a big part of the area. So. And it's been around a long time. It's an iconic part of the area too. So the Toolshed's been around for 30 years. So for us to all of a sudden be worried about shutting our doors, it's become a real possibility if we lose all the people who use the forest and the bush.
Yeah, okay. So were you consulted at all about this proposal in any kind of way? And if you were, what kind of experiences did you have with any of the consultation processes, including the eminent panel?
We've had meetings in the town, and I had a one-on-one with the eminent panel. At the end of it all, there were no answers.
Yeah.
All right, basically they were saying that things are not going to happen, they're not planning on locking things up and all of that, but there was no answers. Yeah. So I know the final decision hasn't been made, but it seems to have been made in a roundabout way, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So.
And so from your experiences, what have you seen actually happening to small and local businesses as bush access starts to change?
Well, it's one of those that camping is a massive part of this area.
Yeah.
And just people get in the bush, they camp in the local campgrounds. And obviously the trail bikers, the four-wheelers, they're around all year. Right? That is a big part of our business, 7 days. Yeah. We get our tourists and that on the weekends, but we don't get much business during the week because we're a little bit out of town, obviously, from Melbourne. So they keep the place ticking over with such a small population during the week. People coming from out of the bush and camping and doing all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And so you've been talking about the different kind of bush users that you see in Noojee. You know, generally, what's the most common people that you would see that would frequent this far out into Noojee?
And this place on a weekend is really exciting because we can have a car park full of trail bikers. Yeah. Another section will be full of four-wheelers. The fella there, he was wood. We get all types and all sizes, all shapes, all different people coming to the Toolshed. Yeah. So it is a hub. From here, they go out and enjoy themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. So there's this idea around that locking up the bush is the best way to basically protect it. What's your experiences of living in an area that's surrounded by forest around the idea is locking it up the best way to protect a forest?
I sit there, and I've only been in the town of Noojee for 12 years, but I've sat there, obviously owning a bar, sat with many locals. Many people have grown up, and they're generation after generation of people that have lived in this area. And it's one of those that I sat with the eminent board and I said to them, we were talking about locking tracks up and things like that. The loggers are now gone, and whether you like them or not, the loggers, they used to get in and they used to, with their dozers, and stop the fires. Now they saved millions and millions of hectares and millions and millions of animals by getting in there and cutting tracks and stopping fires. There's no one to do that now. They're all gone. Yeah. The fires will just keep going and going and going. Over 1,300 degrees, all the trees die, all the animals will die. Yeah. So locking the forests up makes absolutely no sense when you sit there talking to people who have been around this place for generation after generation after generation.
Yeah. And earlier on you were talking about the Blackberries, that there just isn't enough money in DECA to even maintain the forests and look after them. Can you just talk about what's going on with the tracks that don't get maintained and the overgrowth of blackberries compared to ferns and natural habitat?
Once again, my background, and I probably need to tell you, is I love the bush. I am a greenie, but I like to ride trail bikes through the bush and camp through the bush. So I consider myself a true greenie. I get out, I use the bush, I look after the bush, and I enjoy the bush. It's one of those. It was what were we talking about? Sorry.
Around the blackberries
The blackberries.
Yeah, the actual maintaining of the tracks because of
we
overgrowth.
were talking earlier. And what's happening now is, and DECA do a terrific job, all right, they work their butts off out through here and everything else, but they've got funding problems as well. 12 years ago, I used to go along roads and everything else, and there were pristine ferns all along the riverbanks and everything else. It's now all blackberries.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so you lock those forests up, that's exactly what's going to happen with all of it. No one can get in, the blackberries are just taking over everywhere. The shooters, they won't be able to get in with their hounds. Around here, the deer problem is horrendous.
Yeah.
I'm also a cattle farm. I've spent half my life trying to fix fences and everything else, but we've also got a lot of bush on this property, and the deer are smashing the native vegetation up, destroying it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, if you lock those forests up, the deer are absolutely going to take over completely and utterly, and as well as the blackberries, the deer are going to smash and destroy the vegetation, the native vegetation.
Yeah. So it's not good. So basically, just to round it out, so what are your thoughts about the government's promises of millions of dollars towards ecotourism?
It's not going to help this town, in my view.
Yeah.
It's one of those that there's been some things put on the table, a wellness centre and some forest therapy and all of that. But all the people that come to this town now are not suited to that.
Yeah.
They're all going to walk away.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a massive part of this town won't be here anymore.
Yeah.
So 30, 35%, 40% on weekends, they'll go elsewhere.
Yeah. And so probably people coming out for forest therapy, be lucky if it's a 1-2% of anybody coming out this way, one would imagine.
Well, the forest therapy to me is many things.
Yeah.
But I guess forest therapy to the government is probably walking.
Yeah.
Now, there's already walking tracks around here.
Right.
Quite a lot of walking tracks. We were trying to get some more walking tracks happening, but that's been stopped at the moment because the National Forest, there's nothing, there's no clarification on what we'll be able to do and what we're not going to be able to do.
Okay.
So all of that, we're trying to get the town happening by putting some extra walks in.
Yeah.
But that has been stopped until there's a final decision on the forest
Okay.
and
So-
with what's going to be locked up and what's not going to be locked up and what you're going to be able to use it for.
Yeah. So even though they're saying, people will still have access, it's not like that. Their actions are not indicating, they're not aligned. It doesn't sound like they're aligned to what they're saying. Like in one breath they're saying, oh no, you'll still have access. And the next breath they're saying, well, you can't continue to look at paths and walking tracks because we don't know if you'll be allowed to.
And there's things that we were working on were stopped.
Yeah.
And are we tracks that are existing tracks that have been around a long time? We were talking about getting in and doing some clearing with dozers and all that. So we're talking about walks, 20, 30, 40k walks.
Yeah.
But national forests, you're not allowed to put a dozer in there in a lot of instances.
Right.
So you can't even make a walking track to do forest therapy.
Yeah.
So so it's one of those that some of these things that we were trying to get happening have been put on hold for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So any last thoughts that you want to, anything we haven't covered that you sort of go, these are things that are important for everybody to know?
Just that it is one of those that I obviously go all through the bush and everything else. And when I'm riding in the bush, I sit there and I stop at a lot of camps and all of that. There's kids in rivers. Everyone cleans up after themselves. You see a little bit of bush rubbish on the side of the road with pea platers or whatever it is. But people are looking after the bush.
Yeah.
All right, and we've got a cost of living crisis happening at the moment. A lot of people can't afford to do much. They can go out in the bush and have a camp with their kids and their families and their grandparents, and it costs them nothing.
Yeah.
All right, there's a lot of people absolutely need those forests. They are great therapy already. Don't worry about the forest therapy, it's already doing its job.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, it would be a disaster, I think, for the town. I think it would be a disaster for the whole area and the country towns around that area.
Yeah, for sure. That's fantastic. Thanks, Mark. So everybody, don't forget the Toolshed. It's been around for 30 years. Mark and his fabulous staff are here ready to welcome you. So come on out to the Toolshed, and thank you very much for sharing all your thoughts today.
Thank you for the interview too. I'm pretty passionate about it.
Yeah,
So.
fantastic. Thank you.